This is Pitchdeck Asia. We're in the Asia Tech podcast studio in Singapore. My name's Graham Brown. Almost got that wrong. Joined by Priya Sengupta. Priya, welcome.
Thank you, Graham, for having me here. This is an awesome opportunity. I'm really grateful.
Excellent. I'm glad you're here. I've watched the development of your entrepreneurial journey from the sidelines a little bit, and we're now here at the point where you're going public, which is fantastic. On the cusp of your public launch as well, of your platform, Life Vitae.
Yeah.
So unpack your life.
Yes.
We have your pitch deck as well. It's great, and it's a very visual pitch deck. So I'm looking forward to diving into that. A little bit about your background as well, how you got here, your why, if you like. So you were part of the Platform E program here in Singapore.
That's
so you spent a year? Was it a year in the program?
It was a shy of a year. Yeah.
Like developing the concept and working with.
Yes, so we started from the scratch board. We came in with an idea and we literally walked out with a business. That's their tagline. So
You are a walking success story.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to talk about the business that you are currently growing. A little bit of background to that so people can understand. Originally from, I know this is a long story, right? We were talking about it off air, from India.
Yes.
Moved all over India as well. So
yes.
Where were you born?
Yeah, I was born in Calcutta, but that was just my birth. But I moved around a fair bit in the south of India, and then I went to the north of India to Gwalior, which is a really tiny town. So I'm basically textile, family. So moved around in all the textile hotbeds in India. Went to Sri Lanka after that, textile, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
How long have you been in Singapore?
20 years.
20
we are
years.
Singaporeans now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a citizen now.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's an interesting story, and one of the reasons why I ask, and I always find it useful to sort of dig a little bit when we talk about startup founders and the areas that they're in. I find that people who have lived in many different environments, moved to many different schools, been the new person at a school many times, have gone through that, which is often a harrowing experience if you're a kid being the new kid in a school. Have you been through that? You develop a real strong empathy with people.
That's right.
You learn about being an outsider. You learn about what people go through. You're very good at reading social signals.
Absolutely.
And what people want and so on. And then you wonder about later in life, how do they apply that to their endeavors, whether it's like starting a business, what kind of business will they build? It only makes sense then, given your background, that you're going to build a business that's really about people and about
networking.
And almost that sort of understanding yourself and where you fit in with your career and so on. So enter Life Vitae.
Yes.
So maybe we can go there. Maybe we can get the pitch deck up and we'll dance through the pitch deck if you like. We'll pick out some of the key points. We're not going to do every slide, Priya.
Yes.
But we'll just talk about the main slides. Unpack your life. Why do I need to unpack my life?
So here's the premise, if I were to just translate it into the startup world, because we were just talking about the startup world before we went on air, the thing is that 10 years ago, say in 2009, the number of startups, and I'm looking at Singapore right now, let's just focus on as a case study. There were about less than 300 startups. Today, that number is 4,500. Yeah. So that's a 15x growth just in the number of startups. So if you look at the people employed in these startups, if you were to tweak around with averaging, obviously the average now would be higher. So, but at least there would be a greater than 10x growth. So, coming from the background that I do, people in my sphere of life, in my earlier life, I come from two premier institutes in India, and both, really churn out top grade industry professionals. So most of our batchmates went into these high profile, blue chip, white collar jobs. And maybe the people who were joining the startup industry in those days was like 1%. They were the outliers, That number has gone up significantly today, in today's day and age. And the reason for that is that people are wired differently. Students are saying that they want that little bit more than just the comfort. They want a little bit of risk and uncertainty is fine. And so my entire, problem statement was that here are these flocks and droves of people who are getting into the startup arena, and they could be corporate dropouts, or they could be educational dropouts, or even educational graduates. And what is the leveler? I mean, who tells whom that whether they are cut out for a startup journey or not? And that's the bigger problem.
Right.
When a startup founder is looking for another co-founder or a team member, where's the chemistry? Chemistry is such a oft repeated word, and it is so, it's almost like it's become so commercial nowadays. But at the risk of everybody becoming a psychologist or a psychiatrist, how do you find the chemistry? Which is what brought me to the birth of my platform, is that, this platform is going to look at people in their softer skills, in what they have done in life, apart from their professional and educational qualifications, and look at how they tell their life story. We have questions around their life story, and how do they tell those questions? How do they answer those questions? And we come up with similarity scores.
Okay.
So these.
Okay, fine. Let's go there. I mean, because let's. I think you're going to unpack the platform in a minute. You've identified the key problem, which is that the skills needed to do well in the current workplace are not necessarily the skills that we needed 20 years ago. The workplace is changing. People are moving to startups, even corporates as well. They want more sort of startup type skills. Yeah. So what we have as a traditional kind of method for matching talent with employers is broken, if you like. Maybe we can go into the pitch deck. We're going to the pitch deck and have a look now, if we can. So if you have a look at we're just readjusting the headsets here. It's all right. So okay. Just if you wondered what all that rustling was. Oh, you're right, sitting there.
Yeah, I'm all right.
Okay. So maybe if you just squeeze the headsets up a little bit, because they're quite loose. So.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So without too much distraction, we'll jump in. So you've identified first. Let's have a look, and I'll walk through that. So the focus is on the pitch deck at the moment. So let's keep on the pitch deck here. So maybe we can do, the slides. I'm going to talk through what's on this slide here. So youth unemployment is a big problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously we talked about that, and also there's this need for young people to seek out different kind of skills. That basically what they're saying is that young people are going often trained in a different way, but also that they are, the fact is for young people, they also are seeking out different kinds of challenges in the job market as well. So maybe we can talk about that. If we can have a look at this slide here. So slide 4. You say young people are struggling to find the right work. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit. And bear in mind that some people can't actually see this slide. So maybe you can talk through some of the points on here.
Yeah. So, right now the youth population globally is about 1.8 billion with a B. And 13% of that population globally is unemployed. If you look at that number in Southeast Asia, it's 12%. In Singapore, it's one of the best, metric. It's about 8%. But these are from a study which could be outdated by now. But as in, this is from a study done last year. But as we look at youth, we realize that. What was considered a bug in the time that we were youth has become a feature. Many youth are not really pursuing the career in their chosen line of study. So 39% of the youth are saying that they actually work in. That 79% of the youth are saying that they actually work in a arena which is different from their level of study, and 39% of the youth are saying that they would possibly change their jobs in the next 2 years. So there is this underlying this nascent problem of youth misemployment, if I could use that term, which is that people are joining workforces because that is what is available to them, but they basically want to change out of that. And now, what is to gauge what is that perfect line of work or that perfect career that a youth can follow? Which is where our platform comes in.
Right.
We talk about, here are your skill sets, here are your, life achievements. This is what you've done in life. These are some of the salient moments that you talk about on our platform, and therefore this is the match. This is, if you want a mentor, so mentoring is another problem, but I'll get into that in a little while. But this is your match. This is this could be a possible area of your work, rather than just groping in the dark, looking through, what am I doing here? Maybe this is not suited for me, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. And the root cause of this, if you like, is, you've identified it maybe in this slide here, 5, the CV. This is the bad guy. This is the antagonist in the narrative,
yes,
right?
This is my pet antagonist.
Right, let's talk about that, because the CV is the CV. The CV in 2019, this is a CV I remember in 1989 when I left school, right? So
Yes.
30 years, despite everything that's changed, it's still the same thing, except 30 years ago I did it on a typewriter.
Yes.
It might as well be the same thing. Explain to me what's going on here.
Yeah, so a CV is a 16th century product. The first time a CV was used was Leonardo da Vinci applied for the Sistine Chapel. So
is that what it was called back then?
That's how
Do you have
it
any
came
references?
upon. Yes, I do. That's how it came upon in existence. And there have been minor tweaks. There's been a lot of formatting. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it remains as a linear, static picture of where you're at right now. A CV does not move with you. That is where we identified a gap in a person and a human being's career, or in an individual's career path. I've been talking to a lot of recruiters as well as line managers, both in big companies as well as recruitment agencies, and everybody says, oh my God, the CV is so boring.
But why? Why do we stick with it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Why do we? It's comfort. There's a lot of networking, social media networking websites which have modeled themselves on the CV, format. So it's just a matter of who will go and disrupt the entire thing.
Right.
It's just that, okay, I need an accountant with 12 years of experience. And don't get me wrong, if it's a job like an accountant with 12 years of experience, those social media networking sites are great. This is for that additional little bit. What if you want to work for a startup?
Yeah.
What if you are, what if you are looking for a co-founder? What if you are an investor looking for to invest in a startup team? What if you're a mentor in a large educational institution? You hear of stories, I'm sure, where mentors can be a hit and a miss. The same mentor has been, oh my God, such a great mentor. I've been from an educational institution myself. I used to teach, I used to mentor students here. I've been great with some students, and with some students, I haven't had any leeway whatsoever. Do you think it's their fault? No. Do you think it's my fault? No. It's just a chemistry match.
Absolutely.
It's. I wish somebody did our Life Vitae with each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the solution. If we can dance forward to, we'll go back into the pitch deck and have a look at that, because what we have here, if we go to slide 8 on the pitch deck, this is really the introduction to the platform here. We talked about some of the background data here. We won't go too deep into this, because if people want to know a little bit more, we can look at they can look at the pitch deck and get it from you. So maybe we can talk about what the actual solution is in this section. What is Life Vitae?
So Life Vitae is a platform which quickly, or rather in one go, curates your life through a carefully curated or carefully picked set of questions which we have run the robustness on through the industry. And depending on the kind of questions that you choose, the AI kind of sets in from that point onwards. And then on, your strengths and your softer skills and your achievements. There are these 6 sort of facets in a human being that is quantified using this platform. And
I think we've got a visualization of that.
Okay,
do we
sure.
have? I mean,
Yes,
number
we do.
13.
Yeah, this one.
Is that this one
Yeah,
here? Okay.
yeah,
So
this
talk about
one.
this. Bear in mind, some people might just be listening. So tell us what the 6 are. Priya.
Yeah, so the 6 basically are your life passions, your life achievements, your life moments, your life profile, lifeline, and then finally derived from all this is your life strength. Now, these life strengths are again packed into a bucket of 6, and why 6? It's not because it may be a favorite number of mine. No, it has been based on the UNESCO/WHO guideline of life skills in a workforce, and those work skills can be broadly put into buckets like they could be cognitive or interactive or emotive or adaptive or creative or motive. So
those are the 6.
Those are the 6.
Yep.
So those are the 6 sort of broad buckets of your strengths. So any individual who has a strength can be broadly categorized into that. And that is where we bring in data science at the back end, and we run our algorithms, which, by the way, have been totally, because I'm a math person, right? These have been totally worked from scratch. These are not the market-led algorithms. They have been tested. They've been very robustly tested, and the testing is still going on. And these algorithms then come up with the similarity score, or the matching between 2 human beings, 2 colleagues in an organization, 2 colleagues in a team, a founder and a co-founder, a investor versus a founding members team, and so on and so forth. Now, again, there is that the world where there is the traditional jobs and there is this accountant, 7 years of experience, which is something that we are not looking to help as much as we are looking to help organizations which are now metamorphosizing into edge organizations, organizations which have innovative labs with them, or organizations which have a incubator within these large and we see so many of these examples coming up. So that's our market. The IHLs, the founder worlds, they could be startup, they could be founder-led other organizations, and they could be edge organizations.
Okay. So help me understand is, if we go back to the traditional CV, very much individual, it seems like a key part of this, and maybe you can unpack this a little bit, is the matching. Is Life Vitae and my own Life Vitae, if I was to put it on there, only as effective as the fact that it matches somebody else, or the fact that it's in relation to, for example, a potential employer, a mentor, and so on? So let me understand the matching part a little bit better.
Yeah, so we are a no judgment website. I mean, there is no right or wrong. There is no atypical personality type which is a winner and atypical personality type which is a loser. I mean, if you look at my own life, for example, I've come from 2 premier institutes, and then after spending 2/3 of my life, disease hit me. I got cancer, and that was like about 15-16 years ago. So from being the first on the list all through, I went to the bottom of the list for no fault of mine. Yeah. So now, this is what it is. Life Vitae is giving a person another chance. Maybe some people need that chance. That is what made me look at, because I was part of a success story. I was a blue-eyed child. I was
IIT,
IIM. I did not look at people who did not make it. And suddenly I went into this deep abyss where, it was like, oh my God, what is happening to me? And, that is what made me come face to face with the need of something that does that kind of take away from all my degrees, I mean, just because I have a setback in life, does that kind of take away from me all the stuff that I have done? No, right? And that what made me thinking that there must be so many people like me. I mean, of course, the negative plunge may not be so deep, but so many children who go to a poly instead of a JC, who don't go to a university. What about them? Life Vitae is a platform which gives everybody a second chance. Some people need third chances. Some people need fourth chances. It is not a judgment platform. It is not a ranking platform. It does not talk about, these are our best candidates or these are our best profiles. No, Life Vitae is everybody is a best for that one person who he matches or who he or she matches with. Or a team that he or she matches with. And I believe, because after my illness, after I got cured, I went into teaching, and I could have taught at a university or at and I deliberately chose to teach at a polytechnic because, that is where students felt. And a lot of my students came and said, oh, but Miss Priya, we are from a poly and, there is no, I can't get into a uni. And then I saw that these children had so much more talent. And these children, they themselves were writing themselves off. So, it is that finding that bug, which we used to think of as bug when we were growing up, those can be features in a human being.
I want to talk to you about the scenarios when people use this. Do you think, I know you can answer it as candidly or as honestly as you want, is that if you didn't have your illness, would you be doing this now?
Yes, I would be, because even if I did not have the illness is something that I have never used in my career. So, I mean, none of my employers know. I mean, it's not a pity thing. It's not a sympathy thing. So, I've continued working. So, of course, I mean, my career path would have, even before my illness, I used to teach.
Right.
I taught at a premier institution in India, which is now premier, but in those days it was up and coming. It was called Ford School of Management. So that was way before my illness happened.
Right.
So,
I just wondered if it made you question.
Yes. No. And I'm happy you questioned me, because I used to teach at Ford School of Management in India, which at that time the ranking was really low. And again, the same scenario that students came up with a low morale. They kept saying, oh, but we don't know. But now today it's doing really well.
Okay. All right. How is this actually used? Give me some example scenarios of where Life Vitae will be used by. Obviously, there's two people involved in this at some point. Maybe we can talk about some of the usage cases.
Yeah, so the use cases could be, as I said, because the startup world is kind of familiar to both you and I, it could be a startup world, a person looking for mentors, a person looking for advisors. Nowadays, a lot of institutes of higher learning, IHL as I call them, have entrepreneurship cells. Now, each entrepreneurship cells have a lot of startups kind of forming. They have, by stipulation, that each of these startups need a mentor or a guide or, what have you. The name kind of differs, but basically the concept is the same. We match mentors you can match mentors to teams like using a Life Vitae.
So who's actually running this? Is it the startup founder, or is it the program manager, or is it the mentors who are using Life Vitae?
The program manager can administer it, or the mentor can administer it. Okay. I mean, of course, the power equation is such that the student's kind of asking the mentor that, sir, can you fill that up, is a bit odd right now. I mean, of course, when we kind of become to that stage, yes, I mean, it would.
I'm just wondering about where the initial conversations are going to be. So you'd go to, let's say they were on the show the other day, Spin-Off at Singapore Poly, for example.
I've spoken to Spin-Off, and we are in a very good conversation right now.
So that's an example. Those kind of people you want.
That's an example. Right, okay. So Spin-Off, just to give context to people who don't know, is the Singapore Poly incubation cell. And I've also spoken to certain organizations which are, so StarHub is very interested. In fact, the Senior Vice President HR of StarHub is on my advisory board. She's so interested right now because she really is excited about this concept, because she can use it as a team building tool within her firm. She can use it as an onboarding tool within her firm.
Yeah.
The use cases are many. You
Right.
know, she can use it as, if they look at building an edge organization, if another company looks at building an edge organization, for example, an incubator, they can use it. Generators can use it, accelerators can use it when they get in their incubator or their generator batch. Generators have these batches of people coming in. They can use it as, because many people say, oh, we look at all the stuff and then it's chemistry, it's gut feel. This is changing armchair psychology into science.
It's also bias.
Yes.
So how would that work? For example, we had the two Antler boys in, say boys, the two, they're still quite young, but they are two co-founders from Antler. Not the Antler partners, we've also interviewed those as well, but a startup, Absolute. They met on the Antler cohort. They never knew each other beforehand. They came together, very, very different personalities. How would that work? Not obviously singling out Antler, but with any accelerator, often they bring people in who haven't met before, don't know each other. And I think it was Tyler Norwood, who's one of the partners in Antler, said the reason why they like that is because if you choose a partner, a co-founder, on the basis of who you know, it's subject to many, many biases. So, for example, I feel comfortable with that person, or maybe it just happens to be the right person who just happened to be there in the network at the time, rather than the absolute right person for the task, right? Let's get together the best people for this team. So how would an accelerator use Life Vitae?
So, I don't know about Antler, but I'm pretty sure that right now, whatever their cohort size is, I read up somewhere it was 90 odd this year, and they started last year, right? And it was some 60 something last year. I'm sure when they take that intake, it is not just 60 applications or just 90 applications that they're looking at. They must be looking at thousands of applications. This is a tool that they can use when they're sifting through those applications. This is a tool which can, there are two bigger questions to be answered here. One is that the startup founder, whether, he wants to be in the startup world because, hey, guess what? He's heard of Mark Zuckerberg and he said, okay, you know what? This is like $1 billion pathway, but is he cut out for it? Yeah. So, and nobody knows until you fail, right? But this is that one level of screening that generators, incubators can use.
At the end of the day, if you can reduce risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
ultimately, who the
people are money, right? Everywhere that you see, people are money. So, sometimes people translate to time, and time is money. Sometimes people directly translate into money. So
Okay. You've already mentioned one of your advisors. I'm going to jump forward to the slide with your team in it and some of your advisors right at the end of the pitch deck here. Maybe I've overshot a little bit here. Where is your team? Okay, we're coming to the ask here. So I'm sorry. I've got slide 22, unless this has actually changed. So maybe you can talk about... this is you. So obviously, this is your own Life Vitae. Maybe you can talk about who's in your team as well.
Yeah, so I have 2 advisors already signed up. One is from the corporate world, as I mentioned, from StarHub. The other is from the academia. She's a senior professor in mathematics from Simon Fraser University in Canada, who is sort of helping me with the data science angle there. I have separate data scientists sitting in India, in Pune, who do the data science, algorithm and the testing, and basically the robustness testing of the entire platform. Apart from that, I have a development team which also sits in India. That has about 5 to 6 people. Right now, I have 2 full-time employees, both on the marketing side, one on the B2B marketing side, one on the B2C.
Here in Singapore?
Here in Singapore,
And how have you funded it up until now?
It's all self-funded for now, and friends and family, but I am looking at that seed stage right now.
Are you in the market for investment?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Are you happy to talk about what you're raising at the moment?
Yeah, so my burn rate, rough back of the envelope calculations is about 25,000 Sing dollars per month. That is my burn rate. And so I'm looking at a runway of at least a year. So,
Okay.
before I can hit a 100,000 user platform.
Yeah.
Because,
So you're obviously the figures we can talk about if they have the discussion with the investors as well. What you are focusing on for the 12 months, 100,000 users. How are you going to go and get those? Because this is really what it's about. Is that whether you're raising 150 or $300,000, how are you going to spend that? What's your customer acquisition going to be? What's your channel to getting 100,000? Because that is an expensive business if done the wrong way, right?
Yes, of course. So my customer acquisition is IHL. I'm going to go through campus ambassadors. Right now in Singapore, IHL, the total cohort size, like from first year to the year that they graduate, is 210,000. And that's just Singapore. My product is no way Singapore based. It's also been launched in India, also in Indonesia. I'm coming up with a Bahasa version. So, I'm going to tap the Indonesia market. In my preliminary soft launch on social media, I've got more than 6,000 hits every day. So on my platform, and this is not even with the similarity score. This was just giving them their Life Vitae.
Right. So your hustle, if you like, is going and knocking on the doors of all the IHLs and pitching them your platform.
Yeah.
Okay. And like you said, it's 210,000 students?
210,000 students
Here
from the IHLs in Singapore alone.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So even if I were to take a 10% of that, and then I have like a 3-country approach. So
yeah. And you also talk about corporates as well.
Yes. So
obviously that's the market.
Yes.
Would you focus on academics first to kind of test it out and then take it to corporates?
No, we're doing it both ways.
You're both doing the corporates as well?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're going to the HR departments, HR managers?
Yes, I'm doing to HR departments, line managers,
Yeah.
incubators within a corporate, generators within a corporate, edge organizations, as I was talking about, different from the core organization. So the HR of the core organization could be different. The edge organization could be an innovation lab or something. So
And you're doing that all yourself? Who's knocking on the doors?
Myself,
right
now, and the other person who's on the B2B side with me. But right now he's back end because he's in the induction phase, so he's just started with me. So he's going to soon hit the ground too.
Right, and how you because I'm always curious about how, and I'm sure investors are as well, about how you go about that process. Do you literally pick up the phone and just call people randomly, or do you?
I have some contacts.
You got
also, I have a lot of contacts because of the fact that I'm from these premier institutions. I have well-placed alumni who've now. I've been 20 years out of my MBA school and 25 years out of my engineering school. So I have really well-placed alumni colleagues. I mean, alumni friends rather.
Right.
And
there's a lot here in Singapore as well. Right. Exactly,
Singapore.
from India, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because sadly, although these two institutions belong in India, there's been a fair bit of a brain drain. So
well, you're an example.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, there's a very strong connection between India and Singapore as well. So I mean, obviously, if that is something that you can work to your advantage, then you certainly should.
So sadly for India, but it works to my advantage is that a lot of my contemporaries are well placed in the industry right now.
Okay. And is there any skills that you are, preempting that you're going to need in the next 12 months? I mean, obviously you can go out and talk to people, but that is limited by the fact there's one of you. You've onboarded somebody as well, so now you have a team developing for that. Is there any? You say you got people that do the data science for you. Because obviously people do watch this who may be wanting to work for a program or a cause or a story that they kind of connect with. So are there skills that you're looking for particularly at the moment?
Just that passion and just that ability to take no for an answer. Just that, and to get up the next morning and go back again, knocking at another door. Having said that, I am looking for a co-founder. So
And what would the co-founder be like?
So I am basically a networker, and my math background does come in also
Yeah.
handy. But I'd liked, right now, as I mentioned, my development happens all in India. I would like to keep that development in-house, I mean, going forward. So once I start once I come up with my stable version of my platform,
Yeah.
then I'd like to take the development in-house.
So a technical co-founder.
Yes, a technical co-founder.
Okay. And any particular sort of background? I know you've talked about the personality-wise, like the hustle and the fact that you can get up after a rejection and like face it all again. It's all part of the startup world, right? But do they come from a certain background, or
That could be a trick question for me, because again, there is no right background.
what should be on their CV?
Yeah.
Would you like them to do a Life Vitae?
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody who applies to me does a Life
Yeah.
Vitae.
Okay.
Yeah,
Excellent.
including the interns. I also have a batch of interns who I didn't mention.
Yeah.
My campus ambassadors, everybody who comes on board does a Life Vitae.
Of course, as they should do. Priya Sengupta, it's been a fascinating insight into what is broken in the world of careers and our life paths. But I think that your solution is a very interesting one. There's some real challenges ahead in the next 12 months, right? Because I think at the top of the show, we talked about the embedded inertia in people. That they stick with the CV because we've been doing it for 500 years, right?
Yeah.
600 years. So there's that challenge. So you need people who have that kind of energy, and a little bit of stubbornness as well.
But I've got a very good feedback from the market. I'm quite surprised, because in the startup world, you get more no's than yeses. I've got everybody almost saying yes. So I keep coming back home and saying, "Where's the catch? Where's the catch?"
Right.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, it's a good start. Priya, what is the best way for people to reach out to you? What's the preferred channel?
I'm available on all the social media platforms.
Yeah.
So Facebook, we have pages on each one of them. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I'm also available on info@lifevitae.co or psg@mylifevitae.com.
Excellent. That is Priya Sengupta, everybody. And go and check out Life Vitae, and anything that sort of like resonates with you today, reach out. All the best with your journey.
Thank you.
Looking
Graham.
forward to seeing how that unfolds.
Thank you, Graham.
Now and also your launch as well in April. So
Yeah.
bear in mind, we're recording this in March. So
Yeah.
we have the launch coming up in April. Be great to see how you're doing on the other side of that sort of longitudinal journey, right?
Yeah.
Like your own sort of
yeah.
Life Vitae. It'd be great to get that story as well and see sort of what you've learned, lessons learned, and also how things are expanding for you, hopefully.
Sure.
So
Thank you.
excellent.
Thank you, Graham, for having me on the show.
No,
It's
thank
been
you.
a pleasure. Thank you.